All right, folks. Let's start to wrap it up. Give me 1 second.
Question, Jeff. I got a startup check from Corey. Do you want me to just add it to that envelope? Do you want me to give the envelope to Beth? No?
On here, write down the name, full name, rep number, and the check.
Yeah.
And then put check. Back to you. Please. All right, everyone grab a seat. Let's roll. Let's roll. Have a seat.
I got that.
I got apparently it's very monotone. I make one mine's in my car. My mom stole them.
Now we are in darkness. And then you get
Oh my God!
Okay. So, folks, this specific video. So this specific video, everybody, is a video that we came across. It came up on TED.com last year. We played it for the second prep, and I put a note. I put a mental note and a physical note in my planner a year ahead of time. How about that? For practice what you preach, I hope. I also have, for those of you that are aspiring to be district managers, I have what I do is I take notes for the following year on AGL 2014 last year and things to note. And one of them was play this video in the first prep, not the second prep. Cool. And for example, when things happen between now and the 20th, things that I want to throw into the opening comments, instead of saying, oh, I'll remember that, you never do. So I have a note here. It says, thoughts for AGL Prep number 2, September 20th, 2014. I'll open it up. I'll add it to the list. So when I'm preparing for the meeting, I don't forget those great ideas that could go into the meeting. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So back up online, and this is the video. It's Meg J. I believe clinical psychiatrist rather, best-selling author, and I wish I could play this. I wish every 20-year-old watched this video.
Yeah.
We're missing a few people. Okay, let's wait. Let's see here. I'll stall. Everyone needs to see this again, even me. So, Daniel, where's Ricky?
Screen.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, everyone's here. Who are we missing?
Franco.
Okay. And then back. Beck is here. We have Beck in there. We grab Beck. Who else are we missing? Ricky's doing the interview. That's fine. All right. So I encourage you to take a ton of notes. I would go ahead and Facebook comment on the same post, any light bulb moments. This is just such a great video. The objective of me showing this video is to let you know through the crazy times, why it's still worth your time to be specifically here in AGL. Really important. So we'll go from there. Enjoy. I said enjoy.
When I was in my 20s, I saw my very first psychotherapy client. I was a PhD student in clinical psychology at Berkeley. She was a 26-year-old woman named Alex. Now, Alex walked into her first session wearing jeans and a big slouchy top, and she dropped onto the couch in my office and kicked off her flats and told me she was there to talk about guy problems. Now, when I heard this, I was so relieved. My classmate got an arsonist for her first client. And I got a 20-something who wanted to talk about boys. This I thought I could handle. But I didn't handle it. With the funny stories that Alex would bring to session, it was easy for me just to nod my head while we kicked the can down the road. 30's the new 20, Alex would say. And as far as I could tell, she was right. Work happened later, marriage happened later, kids happened later, even death happened later. 20-somethings like Alex and I had nothing but time. But before long, my supervisor pushed me to push Alex about her love life. I pushed back. I said, sure, she's dating down. She's sleeping with a knucklehead. But it's not like she's going to marry the guy. And then my supervisor said, not yet. But she might marry the next one. Besides, the best time to work on Alex's marriage is before she has one. That's what psychologists call an aha moment. That was the moment I realized 30's not the new 20. Yes, people settle down later than they used to, but that didn't make Alex's 20s a developmental downtime. That made Alex's 20s a developmental sweet spot, and we were sitting there blowing it. That was when I realized that this sort of benign neglect was a real problem, and it had real consequences. Not just for Alex and her love life, but for the careers and the families and the futures of 20-somethings everywhere. There are 50 million 20-somethings in the United States right now. We're talking about 15% of the population, or 100% if you consider that no one's getting through adulthood without going through their 20s first. Raise your hand if you're in your 20s. I really want to see some 20-somethings here. Yay, y'all's awesome. If you work with 20-somethings, you love a 20-something, you're losing sleep over 20-somethings, I want to see, okay, awesome, 20-somethings really matter. So I specialize in 20-somethings because I believe that every single one of those 50 million 20-somethings deserves to know what psychologists, sociologists, neurologists, and fertility specialists already know, that claiming your 20s is one of the simplest yet most transformative things you can do for work, for love, for your happiness, maybe even for the world. This is not my opinion. These are the facts. We know that 80% of life's most defining moments take place by age 35. That means that 8 out of 10 of the decisions and experiences and aha moments that make your life what it is will have happened by your mid-30s. People who are over 40, don't panic. This crowd is going to be fine, I think. We know that the first 10 years of a career has an exponential impact on how much money you're going to earn. We know that more than half of Americans are married or are living with or dating their future partner by 30. We know that the brain caps off its second and last growth spurt in your 20s as it rewires itself for adulthood, which means that whatever it is you want to change about yourself, now is the time to change it. We know that personality changes more during your 20s than at any other time in life. And we know that female fertility peaks at age 28, and things get tricky after age 35. So your 20s are the time to educate yourself about your body and your options. So when we think about child development, we all know that the first 5 years are a critical period. for language and attachment in the brain. It's a time when your ordinary day-to-day life has an inordinate impact on who you will become. But what we hear less about is that there's such a thing as adult development, and our 20s are that critical period of adult development. But this isn't what 20-somethings are hearing. Newspapers talk about the changing timetable of adulthood. Researchers call the 20s an extended adolescence. Journalists coin silly nicknames for 20-somethings like twixters and cadults. It's true. As a culture, we have trivialized what is actually the defining decade of adulthood. Leonard Bernstein said that to achieve great things, you need a plan and not quite enough time. Isn't that true? So what do you think happens when you pat a 20-something on the head and you say you have 10 extra years to start your life? Nothing happens. You have robbed that person of his urgency and ambition, and absolutely nothing happens. And then every day, smart, interesting 20-somethings like you or like your sons and daughters come into my office and say things like this. I know my boyfriend's no good for me, but this relationship doesn't count. I'm just killing time. Or they say, everybody says as long as I get started on a career by the time I'm 30, I'll be fine. But then it starts to sound like this. My 20s are almost over and I have nothing to show for myself. I had a better resume the day after I graduated from college. And then it starts to sound like this. Dating in my 20s was like musical chairs. Everybody was running around and having fun. But then sometime around 30, it was like the music turned off and everybody started sitting down. I didn't want to be the only one left standing up, so sometimes I think I married my husband because he was the closest chair to me at 30. Where are the 20-somethings here? Do not do that. Okay, now that sounds a little flip, but make no mistake, the stakes are very high. When a lot has been pushed to your 30s, there is enormous 30-something pressure to jumpstart a career, pick a city, partner up, and have 2 or 3 kids in a much shorter period of time. Many of these things are incompatible, and as research is just starting to show, simply harder and more stressful to do all at once in our 30s. The post-millennial midlife crisis is